Studies, who will be presenting on the topic of defining your vision of success. I honestly have to say that this is one of my favorite session of the entire series, because in my eyes, it's pushing back on the very narrow view of what success means. And it really puts it back on the individual to define that for themselves, which for me is, I find very powerful. So again, thank you for being here. I'm Lily Pinedo Guienca. I serve as the program director of the Chicanx Latinx Student Success Center. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I also have here Elisa Aquino, who's our program coordinator for Centro. And I will turn it over to Carolina or Professor Prado to set us off on this amazing presentation. And just a couple of housekeeping as well is that if you have any questions along the way, please use the chat feature to include some of those questions, and we'll do our best to try to answer those. We are recording the session as well. So if there are any private questions or individual questions that you feel are more confidential in nature, let us know in the chat and we'll be sure to stop the recording. The recording will be posted to our YouTube channel. And so that way it could be available to other students or community members that weren't able to log into today's session. So Dr. Prado, take it away.
All right, thank you, Lily and Elisa, for all your work organizing the session. I'm super excited to be talking with you all. Like I say at the beginning of all my classes, it's super helpful for me to see y'all's faces. So if you're in a place to do so, to share your video, it helps me out. And of course, if you're not able to, that's fine. So thank you all for being here. I wanted to just start sharing my screen real quick, and also just tell you all that I have put the handout on the chat. The latest one that I uploaded is the one because the other one was not in the form format, so you won't be able to type into it, but this latest file, you can write into it so that you have access to it. We're gonna be talking about that in a second, but I just wanted to, for you all to have it there already. So thank you all for having me. I'm super excited to talk a little bit about my academic journey and also to talk about, you know, this issue of developing your own vision of success in a world where a lot of the times our ideas of success feel really imposed on us. And so in terms of what we're going to be doing, we'll do some introductions. We're going to do a quick little breakout session at the beginning of the session here, just so that you all can get to know someone else or a couple other people in this workshop. Then we're going to talk about sort of these ideas of success. We're going to be looking at sort of the iceberg illusion of what we think we see as success, but what it really entails, everything that's sort of underneath the top of the iceberg. We're going to do some brainstorming around you all developing your own personal vision of success, and that's part of the role of the handout, just so that you all can start thinking about how you want to identify your own success. We'll talk about the models for approaching college work and how that can relate to that model of success and how you define what being successful is. And then we'll end with talking about the mindset around resiliency and growth. And then at the end, we'll do a little bit, I have some reflection questions for you all to think about and discuss all together around these different topics. And throughout, I'll share a little bit about sort of what my, you know, where my positionality is in terms of these questions. So Elisa, do you have the breakout rooms set? Yeah. Okay. So in the breakout rooms, you all are going to share your name, your pronouns. My pronouns are she, her. I didn't bring it up at the top there. Your hometown, your major or your possible major if you're undeclared right now. And I would want to hear about who or what has motivated you to pursue a college degree. Might be a person, someone in your family, someone that you've met in your community, or it might be like a goal that you already have or a set of goals. So we're gonna break out into groups of 3 or 4 folks, and I'm gonna give you all about 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and share a little bit about what you all discussed. Do you need me to move something on here for the breakout rooms? Okay.
1 second.
Thank you, Lisa.
See.
Rooms. Can I have a few folks share maybe what they talked about as like a source of, you know, inspiration for why they wanted to go to college? Maybe if you could.
Sure, I'll share first. So, um, my parents and my older brother Mark played a huge role in helping me to enroll in community college. I'm always ever grateful for their services because I helped me uh, learning how to get from a transition from special education to traditional classes. And currently, I am just trying to pursue a career in education, particularly at the library, because I've I always been in service by others, and I'm just someone just inspired to give back to others to see them achieve academic success and help them, and also help people with building a community.
Yeah, so giving back and being able to provide service for
Yeah.
other people too. Thank you. Other folks want to share?
I can share a little bit about what we talked about too. There was some of us who had always been expected to go to college through their parents. And then there was another couple of us that didn't really have parents or family that were going to undergraduate, like going to pursue their undergraduate. And we kind of had to like manage our way ourselves and figure that out with friends and things like that too. So we had a varying impact from this support system behind us and what motivated us to stay in school.
Yeah, so differing like family expectations and
yes,
support that comes from that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and just the experience around us and.
Nice, thank you. Anyone else want to share about what they discussed as their motivations?
I can do it. So I'm an international student from India. So my grandfather was the first generation college graduate of a family. So he was an immigrant at the time of partition of India and Pakistan. I don't know if you guys are aware. So it was difficult because obviously they didn't have facilities for education and even for living. So even though the times were tough, so he stayed resilient and he was perseverant and he pursued his goal of education. And he was the first college graduate, so he was the main inspiration behind my reason for attending college, and it was his dream to actually study in the US. So it's basically like I'm living his dream.
That's exciting. Yeah, so the seeing how like other people have had to persevere for getting their goals met in education can be really inspiring, right? For like, you know, like sort of, you know, making them proud in that sense of like how you will you know, also work towards those goals. Thank you.
Yes.
One other person to share what they talked about?
I can go.
Oh, I think you muted yourself.
Got it. So for me, I guess it was motivation mostly through my mom. She was a single parent. So I felt like a lot of the struggles that she had kind of made us think or believe that by us going to the university would kind of make it easier for us in a sense of not having to deal with some of those burdens. So I am technically like a first college student, and I told my group that I remember her saying like, "You're gonna go to the university, you know," and then I would say, "Well, how do I get there? Like, what am I supposed to do?" And then she would just say, no sé, I don't know. I don't know how to do it, but you're going to do it. Lo vas a hacer. And then, so I remember being like, what? So what am I supposed to do here? Like, what do you mean? So, and then I remember that in college, I mean, in high school, it was like my last year, my senior year, and I had just started, and the teachers already kind of had an idea of like who they wanted to send or who they were really helping to go to the university.
Yeah.
And I wasn't in that group at that time. And so then I didn't even know, you had to apply a year before and all that, all those things. So it was very difficult because I feel like I wasn't really supported at school with it because they already had an idea of what students were actually going to go to college. And so a lot of my motivation obviously came from my mom, and then for myself, and then for my family. And so it kind of came together in that sense.
Yeah, so I see a lot of themes here about like sort of also just like I hear a theme around responsibility too, right? Like my parents struggled and I want to like be responsible for pushing that forward, right? Like that the struggle to sort of get an education and do something different than my parents did to like make them proud, and also in terms of supporting your family too. The folks in my group were talking about that too, like the responsibility to support folks. And I was saying that I relate to a lot of what you all are saying around why I personally decided to go to college and what was my motivation. And I'll talk about that in a second. And I think I'm just going to check real quick if someone in the chat saying something to me. Yeah. So yeah, if you want to share things as we're going along, please feel free to share them in the chat. And I'm going to keep my little chat box open so I can take a look at them and comment on them. So in terms of these, all these ideas of, like why we come to college and sort of what the different things that we want to get out of it, like helping other people, supporting our family, being able to do the things that we want to do. There are a lot of different sort of elements to what that means in terms of whether we're successful at doing those things, right? And I wanted to, start off a little bit about talking about sort of what we see as success in other people, and then I'll give you a little bit about my take on the things that you all have shared that I have in common with. So like for example, when we think about the folks that you all are engaging with on maybe an almost everyday basis at this point in college, what are the kinds of things that you all assume about professors in terms of where they're at in their life in relationship to success and meeting their goals? What are some kind of things that you kind of assume about your professors?
I see a lot of compassion and empathy, but also challenging their students' assumptions on their writing or ability to think. Because I've seen that sometimes teachers may have the same argument, but they could switch it up and go into their own interpretation of what they think that means. Because critical thinking has their different formats to it. It's creative, or being creative, or being, or showing arguments, or having students to think in a different perspective when it comes to like they're watching a film, reading, and responding to it.
Mm-hmm. So like you see that that students or that professors are compassionate with their students, and that they kind of give different modalities for students to be able to show how they're analyzing things.
Yes.
Thank you. What are some other things that you all kind of assume about your professors and where they're at with their goals and success and all that?
Oh, sorry, you can go ahead. You can go ahead.
Okay. I was going to say that I feel that students kind of assume that professors can help them sometimes in terms of their career development, maybe with like suggestions on where to like do internships and, kind of along that route, but sometimes we don't realize that professors themselves maybe don't have like all of the experience. Maybe like maybe they didn't do internships while they were doing that, but maybe they did some other position, But then I feel like, sometimes we aren't made known of that until we kind of ask and like find out. So I feel like that's just something I feel like we assume, but I feel like we never know until we like find out. So
Right. So like you assume that they're already going to know all the resources and can just, know things that for sure you don't know, right? But you kind of realize that there's probably things that they don't have experience with, because not everyone has gotten to where they're at in the same route, right? Good, thank you. Someone else want to share something that they assume about their professors, about where they're at with their goals and success?
What I was going to say before is kind of just like sometimes like people do kind of look, or they do look up to their teachers, and they kind of think that they have this idea of what a teacher is, just like we have this idea of like what a parent's supposed to be. But they really like, they're just as human as the students. They have just as many struggles as the students have. And so like, I always just assume that we're all on the same level. Like we all, like they've worked very hard to get to where they've got in their education pathway, and we're working hard to get to where we're going to. Mm-hmm. So I always just kind of assume they're just as human as me. They have struggles. If they're late on assignments, like they usually work with me, I usually work with them. And so it goes back and forth, and there's a level of respect and humility between the students and the professors.
Yeah, and I think that that's one of the, I guess this is where I'm getting at with this question, is that a lot of the times I think, even in like popular media and things like that, like folks who are in a position of, especially positions of power, like professors are in the world of academia, folks are assumed to like already know what's going on with everything, or like have all of the knowledge of the resources, and just kind of like be done, right, with success and goals. And one of the things about this is that it's, in the way that we see success, it's kind of like an iceberg, right? In terms of what people see as success, or like the things that are on the surface of the water. Could be, having a position of power, having, being done with a terminal degree, or being done with a degree in general, right? But, the things that are underneath the water that are harder to see through all that is that not only did it take all these things at the bottom to even get to that place, but that it's a continual process, right? That people are still, working on their goals, and, working to work on their success still, like it's a work in process, right? And that all those things take things like persistence, like failure, lots of disappointment along the way, having good habits, sticking to those good habits through hard work, dedication. And in terms of, when I think about sort of my pathway to this, to work on my success and all the things that are underneath the water of my iceberg, when I was thinking about this, I thought about, how, and as you all are talking, it also reminded me that I think I have like a triple first generation. My first generation here is that my family, that I'm first generation to the U.S., right? So my parents, who are on this picture on the left here, are migrants to the U.S. from Mexico. And so there's a lot of things that came with that, right? Around language and knowledge of the systems that are going on here in the U.S., both legal and educational. I have this picture of me and my siblings because I'm the eldest of my siblings, and I know I'm shorter than the other ones, but I'm still the oldest, and that has shaped my experience with education a lot too, because I was like the first one who was trying to figure things out when it came to college. My parents also, you all were talking about, someone was saying, Kiara, I think you were saying that your parents hadn't gone to high school, or maybe it was someone in my group. My parents also didn't graduate high school. My dad didn't even make it out of elementary school. So, they're going to high school was also a first generation thing for me. And I think in terms of being first generation college student, there were all these kind of hurdles in here that some of these I still experience today, right? Like even though I finished my degree, I'm in a professional role. Some of these things still are experienced there. So in my time in college, I really had a lot of fear around not being able to be, like good enough and being able to keep up with all the work that I had to do, especially because of all of my responsibilities in my family around being the eldest and, helping my siblings out and all of that. Language is a big one. English is my second language. So even though I did my schooling in English, it was always still kind of difficult to make sure that I was like up to speed on everything because of, I've been bilingual all my life. Also the lack of experience, especially in my family around sort of what you're supposed to do to get to college, right? Like Yara, you were saying that, and what you're supposed to do to stay in college, get funding, all of these different questions, right? And a big one, which is up on the left there, is the issue of imposter syndrome, right? So feeling like regardless of all the things that I get done to meet my goals and all of that, I'm still not good. That question of not being good enough, right? So I think the first generation, being a first generation student, and also being the first generation in the U.S. has kind of built up all of these challenges and struggles for being able to meet all my goals. And like I said, these are, even though this has been along the way as I've gone through college and all of that, these are also things that I am experiencing now, right? That I still have to struggle with. One of the things that we have to do as professors is write and publish our academic work. And every single time I'm working on publishing a paper, the issue of language always comes up because my research is with Spanish speakers. So all of the language and translation stuff is always, an issue that I have to, put in extra work to do it. And one of the things, sorry, the animations are off here, but one of the key things in terms of helping me succeed, specifically in my time in college, were a few really important things. One of them was getting involved on campus. This is a picture of me maybe like 12 years ago. And when I participated in an organization called the Association of Chicana Activists, I went to school at San Diego State. So, working on helping to build community around other students of color in the department or in the university, raising money for community organizations, doing volunteer trips. All those things really kind of kept me motivated on finishing my work for campus, because I felt like, I had to make sure that I managed my time well so that I could keep, contributing to these things that were really important to me. The other really important thing was finding formal academic mentors. So for me, that was Professor Lara, who's the person on the far right. No, the second to far right with the glasses. She's a professor at San Diego State, and having her as a mentor really kind of geared my path towards understanding that I wanted to be a professor. And being in this program, this mentorship program with her, really helped me sort of guide where I was going after college. I think that, to be honest, I went into college thinking that I wanted to be a domestic violence counselor. That was always my goal. After I, spent time at San Diego State and realized that I really wanted to get involved in environmental issues, she helped me steer my direction towards graduate school. I think also another key thing for you all to think about is, all of the ways in which you can build networks through programs or opportunities. One thing that really kind of changed or sedimented where I was going was participating in a summer research program. That's what this picture is here on the left. This was in 2010. I did this program at UC Berkeley, and I happened to, in my time there, find a mentor who ended up being my PhD advisor. And the picture on the right is my PhD advisor and me when I graduated from my PhD program. So those kinds of taking advantage of those opportunities. I know that at San Jose State, we have things like the McNair program, which I also was a part of. And those kind of things really kind of shape what you see as what's possible, right? The opportunities that you see as possible in your career. And then the last one, which I think is really kind of a key part for me, is participating in causes and issues that I was passionate about. So I think for me, this is really what got me to think seriously about what I wanted to do with not just what kind of job I wanted, but the kind of work that I was going to do through that job. And so this picture here is of a sort of like environmental toxic tour that I did in the city of Tijuana. For those of you that don't know, Tijuana is the first Mexican city after San Diego. And so we did this tour looking at environmental justice issues in Tijuana, and this ended up being the topic of my of the research that I did for 6 years in my PhD program. And I think it wasn't just, you know, like what will be my research or what will be my project, but what do I really care about? And so for me, you know, the having these experiences and these opportunities really defined for me that I wanted to find a community of people that shares my interests, and then also that I wanted to give back to my community through academic work. So seeing all the issues that I thought were important and really critical to get solved, I think is my impetus, and honestly continues to be my impetus for getting through all the work that sometimes seems impossible to finish, is these two things: sharing, having community of people that shares my interests, and also giving back to my community through the academic work, both in terms of service and research, but also through teaching. I see that as a way of giving to my community. Okay, so now we're gonna get to the sort of workshop-y part of the workshop. Again, let me check real quick on the chat. It's hard to have everything open at once.
So Professor Prado, we can help you facilitate that piece.
Okay.
So there was one question that Jackie was asking, which is, and you might be covering here in this part in your upcoming slides, but she's asking, what are some tips to ask for formal academic mentors?
Yeah, so I would say that you could start with your professors. Like I think that as someone who teaches here at San Jose State, I know that when I set up my office hours, I always have in mind that there'll be people who will come just to talk about that they're not sure what they want to do in life, right? Like, and I think sometimes when I've talked to students, like our department has master's students, and they've talked to me before about how as undergrads, they weren't sure that they could come up to a professor just to be like, I think this is what I want to do, that it felt like they weren't.
Yeah, I thought so too.
No, but you definitely can. Like, if somebody shows up to my office hours and it's just like, oh, I think that I don't know what I want to do, and these were the things I was thinking about. I'd never feel like, so what's the point? Why are you here? You know, even if you're not in my class, I have had students who come and say like, oh, I saw your profile on the website, and I just wanted to see if like you could help me figure something out about, you know, like what classes to take or something. And I don't see that that's an overstep at all to do that. And I would really take advantage of that, because as professors, like that's I mean, I'll speak for myself, but that's really the exciting part of being a professor, is that I get to know about what people are doing and like what, you know, help them, guide them through what they want to do. It's not like I'm a formal advisor at this point, but I do think that having mentors means that, you know, you can take that step to just talk to people. And even if you're like, oh, I'm too shy to go talk to them, like you could send professors an email. Like sometimes think conversations like this will open just from really like direct questions like, do you know where I can look for a summer research program? And then, you know, we could start a conversation around that. So I would encourage you to really, you know, take that step, because I don't know many professors, if any, at San Jose State who would be like thrown off by you coming to talk to them about something like that, or about, you know, trying to foster a mentorship with them. There are programs where you can, you know, like formally get attached a mentor, right? Like through McNair's program, for example. I don't know if the Chicanx Latinx Student Success Center has something like that, where there's like a formal pairing or something. But I would, especially, you know, for things that are relevant to your field, like whatever your major is, I would say to reach out to your professors. And I mean, my office hours doors are open. You can come and talk to me as well. Were you gonna respond, Lily?
Yes, I was going to offer that through the Career Center, our own Career Center. They have what's called the Mentoring Squared program. And so you are able to be matched up. You create a profile online, and then you're able to identify like your areas of interest, including career, and you would be matched up with either a faculty member or even a staff member on our campus that can serve in that mentorship role. And there's also an alternative program, and I'm forgetting the name of it, but it's where you get paired up with an alumni. Someone who's already out there in the field, that might be, you know, someone that you want to, if it's a career that you want to pursue, then that's someone that you can also check out. So through the Career Center, you can look that up. Or I'll try to find the link here and put it on the chat so you can find that.
All right, thank you. Yeah, and again, I would just encourage you all, reach out to your professors, you know. Their office hours are for that. So I would encourage you to reach out to them. Okay, so I'm going to start with our questions, and here I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes to think about this question and use the handout that Elisa just posted on the chat as well, around these 3 questions. This one, we're starting with question number 1 on the handout, which says, what does success look like or feel like for you? How do you know when you've been successful? Maybe think about an example in which you have a time in which you felt successful and what you felt has helped you reach that goal. So I'm going to put a 3-minute timer here. So you can take some time to write down your thoughts or think about it some more, and then we'll come back and share. My phone fell. I'm gonna mute myself. So anyone want to share with me an example of a time that they felt successful and what, you know, they felt helped them reach that goal?
I can share.
Go ahead, Jackie.
So just to like keep it relevant within school and academics, I talked about like my perseverance to come back to school after taking a 3-year break. So I'm back in this semester, and I'm also graduating the same semester, and just like the whole process of like going through that, but like also having it feel like satisfying, and just like checking in with myself like each step on the way, because it was a process just to get back into school, like so many hurdles. I got treated as a transfer orientate, like as a like because I was a former student returning, I had to do like orientation and just like all these things. But also like acknowledging the people that helped me, like the College of Education Success Center and the advisors, and just like everyone that's been helpful. Like it's like, and I talked about success, just like having that feeling of being satisfied and being fulfilling and rewarding.
Yeah, so having, you know, acknowledging that it took, you know, all these steps and all this work, but also that, you know, the support network and having those resources was really key for you being able to come back. Yeah, congratulations. Someone else want to share an example of a time they felt successful, what helped get them there?
I can share a moment. I didn't really expect to do so well in my undergrad so far at San Jose State. It's my 3rd semester now. I went to De Anza for community college, and I really like took my time through it and didn't rush. But then I knew that I wanted to do finish my bachelor's like in a timely manner. And I was really nervous about that. And I've been getting really good grades, and I almost reached that 4.0 last semester. And I was really excited that I even got so close to it. And that just made me feel really great. And then also when I was asked to be a TA, that really made me feel great about myself, that the teacher would think that I could offer something else to future students too. And so that really made me feel successful when I was asked to do that. So I felt good about that.
So seeing sort of like the fruit of your labor, right, with the whole
Yeah.
big thing, and then also seeing that other people saw that hard work and what that meant for your ability.
Yeah, and it really pushes me, like success for me is something that really pushes me to keep focusing on what I'm focusing on, where I'm like, oh wow, like I can do good at that. Okay, then like I guess I can keep doing this, you know?
Yeah.
So it really does help me push forward on it.
Nice. Congratulations on your GPA.
Thank you.
I saw a couple other people unmute themselves right before these other folks. Anyone want to share?
I would be willing to share, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So one time I felt successful. This was during, I took a gap semester during my undergrad because I didn't know what I wanted. My grades weren't looking good, so I felt like I just had to take a solid break for a moment. And during that time, I spent a lot of my hours at the animal shelter where I got really comfortable watching the surgeries, like spays and neuters back to back. And there was a moment where one of the head veterinarians, she asked me to stay back because she wanted me to look at a case. And I thought that was a really good point for me. That was my moment of success because I felt like I was really invested in the clinic, and the head veterinarian like acknowledged me enough to want to show a case to me. And what helped me in that goal was honestly my time in undergrad, like taking all the different classes that I had and studying biology, environmental, both ways, and even my hours beyond classes too, like just being in animal shelters and the rehabilitation centers too. That was quite an honor.
That's awesome. Yeah, so also that theme of like having other people see your ability and your work, and that you've learned something, you know, through your academic time is really valuable, and you know, like seeing your own success. And I think that a lot of the times, at least in my experience as a professor, is that I see students question themselves more often than not about not being where they're at, or not doing their work, or like not knowing enough, where most of the times I don't think that, you know, I see that they are capable and that they have, you know, reaped those learning benefits. And it's like, you know, but I also understand, because as I said, that's like a constant thing that everyone has to deal with, right? That I'm not where I need to be, or something like that. Thank you for sharing. Let's go, you know, since we're at 12:46, let's go to the next question. I'm just looking at all the stuff on the chat. Yay. Our next question on the handout. Oh, and I just wanted to say to those, to the answers to that question, success is different for everyone, you know. And again, like I said, like a lot of times people can have a lot of negative speak for themselves because they're comparing themselves to someone else, or you know, like aren't sure what the expectations are. That's another big one. So, you know, making sure that you are, you know, comparing yourself to yourself, and also remembering that, you know, you're doing the best you can and your work is valuable. And so in terms of, you know, identifying this vision and having that guide your way through college, question number 2 is really about sort of relating your goals and objectives to a broader vision. So again, I'm going to turn on the 3-minute timer, and I want you all to think about what kind of activities or connections or interactions are the most meaningful to you, and why. Like it throughout your time in college, like what are the kinds of things that make you feel really motivated and passionate to get things done? So like for you, you know, what are those things that are the most meaningful? And that's question number 2 on the handout. I'm going to start the timer now. One person share with me about, you know, what are the kinds of things that are the most meaningful to you, or the things that, you know, make you feel more motivated or passionate about what you're doing.
For me, what brings me a lot of happiness is that I am a part of a lot of campus programs at San Jose State University, such as a the special education center for disabled students, Braven, Chicana Latina Success Center, and other campus programs that involve career readiness. And what brings me a lot of happiness is a sense of giving back to others, because as you learned earlier, I've been in the service of others, and this just makes my heart to give back to those who are trying to navigate college and community.
I like that. Yeah. So service and being part of these communities are what makes you feel motivated. So in terms of thinking about these, one of the key things I want to leave you all with, since we're running short on time now, is that as you start to think about this, and you have this handout now, so you can think through it, with more time than 3 minutes, and think about what your goals are, what your overarching objective is with the work that you want to do. And it really will, help guide you towards shifting sort of the idea of just like, I want to, get all A's in my classes, but really to understand what that represents for you, and what do they say about you and where you want to go. And here we have these, this idea of, having a personal vision of success can really move you from, doing what you're told to do. So maybe like what we think are the markers of being successful in college, for example, to really, doing what you want to do to and I don't mean what you want to do, like, don't do any work or something, but towards, having what you're working on work towards your goal, your specific objectives for what you want to do with your time here, and what your overall goal is, what you're passionate about. So it helps you move from this, and the other handout that you all were sent was this module A and model A and model B graphic that's, looking at the difference between not having a personalized vision of success, and then, following just, what you're told to do, what your expectations are in class. And your mindset with that will be, to get the job done, and, doing the minimum to get by. And, when you face setbacks, that can, because you don't have this, your own vision of what the main goal is, other than, passing your classes, it can lead to derailment or discouragement from your path in college. Whereas, when you've defined your personal vision of success, you can take that vision to understand how your coursework is doing what you want to do to get to that success. And so then you see all of the requirements that you have, all your assignments, the time that you have to spend into your classes, studying, taking tests. You can see those as the sort of stepping stones, or the opportunities to, get towards your goal, which is, the things that motivate you and you're passionate about. And so then your effort becomes a lot more self-motivated, and you can see setbacks as a way to, sharpen your skills, instead of seeing them, through the more impersonalized view of, what you're supposed to be doing in college. So taking the time for you to define this vision of what you see as success and what you see as important can really help guide, the way that you see your coursework and your requirements in college to really be, specific to your own goals for success. And, this helps build resiliency. And I'll make sure to have the slides be with you, and you all can also see them on the YouTube video, so I can leave some time for questions. But just knowing that having the vision of success kind of helps guide you towards having a growth mindset when problems show up, because there's always going to be setbacks in your path, and so that it can help you be resilient in bouncing back and addressing those setbacks. I'm gonna open the chat and see if there's any questions for me.
There was a question from Anjali. How do you figure out what you are passionate about?
That's a great question. I think that one marker for me is always thinking about the types of things that feel like they're not drags on me, like, and it might seem like kind of simple, but as you're doing your work in class for your classes, maybe you're working on an internship, or you're working on a big project for your major or something like that. I would really pay attention to the things that feel like fun, and then maybe that'll sound like a little bit nerdy, like I'm gonna think everything's fun in my class or something, but the kinds of things that you have to do in your coursework and in your time in college, paying attention to the things that seem more genuinely fun to you, or that you feel more motivated to do without having to really push yourself. I think that to me is a marker of something that I'm passionate about, because I know that those are the things that are my motivation. And one example I would give to you is that I really don't think that for me getting ready for classes doesn't feel like a drag to me. Like, to get together a lesson plan and think about what pictures I want to show students, like that to me is fun. Whereas the part of my job that's sitting in front of my computer and writing an academic paper, that feels always horrible to me, just because I like that the majority of my job is to talk to students. And yes, I have to do the writing part, but it's not, I feel like that's more of a means to an end. And because I have this overall vision of like, I want to be a teacher and I want to support students to like get, where they need to be, that the writing feels okay, because I have this bigger goal. But I know that what I'm passionate about is, like learning how to teach things better, how to support people in their learning. Like that's the things that I'm passionate about. And I could tell because of how I will drag things out that I have to do. So I would think about that. Like, what are the kinds of things that you're genuinely motivated to do? And in terms of like what that means for the content, like for example, what subfield of your major you want to focus on. I would also say that, you'll be able to tell from what you get excited about as you're learning, about different issues in your classes. Are there, I'm looking now at the, are there any other questions? Sorry, I was a little bit behind on the chat.
Those were all the questions that I found that
Okay.
you haven't answered. Let's see.
Are there any other questions that folks have about sort of, again, like defining what you see as success, dealing with setbacks towards your goals? Any questions around that, or tips, I guess? I'll go to this slide in case this prompts any thoughts from folks in the last couple minutes. So, what's your responses to learning about these two different approaches to college work? What can you do to move forward and maintain sort of a growth mindset in terms of how to deal with setbacks and challenges, or any sort of further comments or questions on the ideas that we talked about today?
I had a comment about the two models of approaching college work. Something that stood out to me about model B was that even when it's talking about failures, it's using that word setback, and it's saying chance to sharpen your skills. And that's like a really powerful way to look at things, and just like not get caught up in whatever that setback is. And that's really what the building resilience comes from too. So I appreciate looking at it as a cycle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it also it leads back into that, vision of success, because it can also inform what you do and you don't want, right? And I think that for me, I experienced that really deeply when I started working as a volunteer at a domestic violence shelter, which I had always thought would be my job. And then I realized like I really don't like this, and I'm not good at it. And so, and I was sad about it I felt like it was a failure, but it really informed like where I was going to go next with that, like what do I actually want to do then? So even the things that feel like really intense and like they're big setbacks, they'll still inform what way you want to move forward. Any other questions or comments?
I'll make a comment. I definitely agree with you that level of like going out there and experience something when you think that you want to do something it's completely different. In high school, I was always like, I'm going to be an art major. I'm going to be an artist. And then I got into school and I would never have expected myself to be in the sustainable energy field. I took a course and I loved it. I didn't, and I would have never expected that, but getting out there and just trying new classes, unfortunately it can be expensive, but maybe like sitting in on a class with a friend or something like that, just to go see it, going to check out clubs, things like that. It really, you never know until you give it a try, if you do or you don't want to do it.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. I see it's 101 now, so I don't want to keep folks on longer. I will leave this up here, which is if you want to, like I said, reach out to me and talk to me about your questions around your visions of success or anything else, really, any advice. This is my email. The next session for the Academic Resilience series is Tuesday the 8th, which is next week. Yeah, next Thursday. And you can RSVP and get the Zoom link for that one as well. Did you want to end with anything, Elisa?
I did want to thank you, Carolina, for
thank you.
this workshop, and as well as for all the students who were able to come in and share your experiences with one another. Thank you for joining us. As Professor Prado already shared, there's going to be a series of workshops throughout the semester, and I'm going to link our link tree where you can find the Zoom links for each of the upcoming events that we have. And one of the events that we do have upcoming is our Student and Professor Connections event on October 14th. And that's an opportunity for you to connect virtually with, professors on campus to learn more about, them, and vice versa, for professors to learn more about you, and, to build some of those meaningful connections that Professor Prado alluded to earlier. So that is October 14th, and you can find the registration link on our link tree. So on the link tree, you can also find our YouTube channel. So if you want to refer this video to a friend who maybe wasn't able to make it, or you have a classmate, feel free to share the link. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you all. Great to meet you.
You as well.
Bye. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.